Hello and welcome to Unsourced Wall. My name is Elvis, and as always, I'm your host. Alright, so this is going to be kind of a short one because, well, I'm getting caught up on some things I should have been reading, and not much else. I don't think there's anything really big in terms of news topics other than, of course, people talking about the most insane controversy and scandal in terms of comics discourse on Twitter so far in recent memory. And I have to say, it is a far sight better than Bruce Wayne should donate to charity discourse for like the billionth time. But it's also still Batman related because apparently he gets all the good controversies and talking points. But apparently there was going to be a joke or a gag in the upcoming season of Harley Quinn, the cartoon on HBO Max, that was going to, I guess, poke fun at Batman eating out Catwoman is the most elegant way I can think to phrase that. And DC was like, can't do that. Heroes don't do that. We have to sell toys of heroes. Whatever. Some sort of executive thinking there. Social media got wind of this and it exploded from there, predictably, leading to a lot of really funny sort of talkbacks, memes, and just general sort of barbs and snarky remarks about it. And the most insane of which was when actual comics creators started getting into it as well. Just because, it's insane to think about. Yes, we as readers can joke with that kind of stuff. It's part of like being in a fandom. But when there's like a more like higher level of authority going in on it too, it's quite a sight. And I think this reaches apex when Zack Snyder, of all people, posted what seems to be his own fan art of Batman just going to town on Catwoman. And it people are debating whether or not it's actually his fan art or he commissioned it. I like to believe that he drew it because people have posted examples of his own artwork here and there, and it looks to be in keeping with what he's already drawn. And surprisingly enough, apparently a lot of people who were getting in on the joke decided that now he had gone too far, which is ridiculous because we're having a discourse about, DC's prudishness, and then people start acting prudish to like a really funny gag that hasn't been that far off from what our people are joking about anyway. And it became this whole Snyder Cut thing again, and it just sort of unraveled from there. But it was fun while it lasted. I think that the latest kind of button on it was when David F. Sanders, who was directing Shazam 2, posted a follow-up to Zack Snyder's tweet and fan art with his own kind of photoshopped image of Billy Batson holding the camera taking that photo in the Zack Snyder fan art, and that was just the perfect way to end it. And if that is like the only really big news topic, then it was a pretty slow week. I don't think anything else on that level happened. So let's just get right on into what I read this week. First of which, I do want to say that I did end up reading Jupiter's Requiem #1, which ended up being titled Jupiter's Legacy Requiem because Mark Millar and Netflix thought that the show was going to be such a huge hit that it was going to be brand recognizable anywhere, and they needed to tie this comic to the show immediately so that people who were hyped out of the show would be able to find the comic easily. And you know what? It's not what happened. It's not what happened, fortunately. And it's funny because there's actually a letters page at the end where Mark Millar has a small little essay about how, the show is the most popular show in the entire world. And I have to believe that they didn't have enough time to cut that page out of the final edit of this release. So it's a fun little artifact to have. But while my distaste and dislike and hatred for the show is well documented on Twitter, on the Comics Authority podcast, and on here, I really enjoyed this first issue. I do have a soft spot for the comics. I think Jupiter's Circle is really great, and Jupiter's Legacy had its moments, but it's a little bit of a lesser effort. Jupiter's Requiem is, at the very least, such a solid follow-up to those things. It feels like a great midpoint between those, where you have these really nice character moments and slower beats, but also the sort of set pieces and bombasticity of Legacy. So it feels like a great midpoint. I do like that Millar really hedged his bets on being synergistic. There are things that obviously are hemmed and aimed toward people who watch the TV show, like one of the characters being drawn more like the actor who played them on the TV show, but also just, really keeping it in check. I appreciated that because we have things like the Kingsman comic getting its sequel, and the sequel was all about the movies, and it made for the most disgustingly jarring reading experience. And it was just awful. But this really does feel like it's a proper natural follow-up in many ways. And I do like seeing where the characters are going. I do like how the world's being set up, and I think that most of like what it's paying off finally, what it's setting up to be paying off from the original series, from Circle and Legacy, well, it's been worth the wait. I had a lot of fun just sort of finally getting the beginning of the culmination here. We do get a lot of impactful moments, and I think the biggest one of which spoiler alert, is that we do finally see what happened on the island. It's only been hinted at in Legacy and not even mentioned at all in Circle, but we finally get to see the aftermath of that, and it's the biggest and most hilarious difference between the show and the comic, because in the show it's not really a mystery per se. It just takes until the final episode of the season to actually get to there, but we see it outright where they're apparently being gifted these powers by this divine, angelic, godly, heavenly force that might be alien force, who knows. And it's beautiful and magical, and it's so heartwarming. And then we get the Requiem #1, and the aliens just fucking kill them and rip their skin off, and we don't know what happens next, but it's not good. And it just shows me that Millar had almost something to do with the show, because like, how could you reconcile those two things? But I was really entertained by that, because it made me feel like, yes, this is Millar that's not going to be holding any punches back. And I appreciate that. I think that Millar is an acquired taste, and he has some series that I really, really dislike and honestly loathe. But Jupiter's Saga here, but the Jupiter Saga deserves a little more. So fingers crossed. Overall, one thumb up, one thumb middle. After that, we have the Hellfire Gala. We have PlanetSide X-Men #1, which was a decent issue. I really enjoyed it. I know a lot of people have been really excited about it. It's a very ideas issue. It has a lot of ideas, a lot of creativity pouring out of it. It just didn't do it for me. I enjoy when Hickman and his crew go wild with like the status quo, and it is definitely full of that. But I also like just reading actual stories. So overall, one thumb middle, one thumb up. After that, we had New Mutants. Vita Ayla does amazing work. This is a perfect issue, at least for what this tie-in is meant to be. It does feel a little bit thrifty, like there's some character work that's being done, but it has to be at service of like being a part of this crossover event. So it's a little bit iffy here and there, but I really enjoyed the character stuff. I loved Warlock. I love seeing more of Gabby. I love seeing how they're interplaying with each other with Danny and everything. And obviously Wolfsbane, who's continuing this strong, emotionally fraught character arc that I just can't get enough of. Overall, 2 thumbs up. I love it. And lastly, we have Stack #1, also by Vita Ayla, which is the first proper issue of the new Milestone Returns reboot that DC is doing. And I talk more about this with my co-hosts over at UHthority if you want to get like a bigger idea of what we all thought of it. But just to give a short summary of it, I thought it was good. I think that there are things that the original comics did a lot better. Even though the original comics, I wouldn't say were perfect. They had a lot more going on in terms of character and just dynamics off the bat, while this one is a lot more insular, a lot more solitary. It's almost completely narrated by Static himself, by Virgil, without giving any other characters really any play or any due. And it's a shame, because we only see like Richie and Daisy and Frida, which are only like half or a third of the main cast the original comic even had, but only for like 2 panels, and they all say nothing. They're just props. And hopefully that changes as we go along, because Static was weirdly kind of an ensemble book. Like, obviously Static was the main character, and they're all other side characters, not all on the same level, but you got a lot of page real estate in the original series that was dedicated to him hanging out with Richie, with Chuck, with Larry, with Felix, with Frida, with Daisy. And it was honestly odd, but refreshing in hindsight. So hopefully we get more of that going forward. This issue doesn't really have any of the, like, bite of the original comics either. Like, the original comics really go hard and raw and unfiltered. This one has a little bit kind of, like, codedness in terms of, like, what it's trying to say without going too far. I think that DC is really trying to make this a little more palatable and, like, broad appeal. Like, Richie and Daisy and Frida have their cartoon designs and everything. But it does enough. I think that for a comic like this, you're going to have to do a lot more of the character work if you're not doing much with, like, the social rawness of the character's core, which I think they're being limited at, which is a shame. But Overall, I think that Rita Ayla does come out swinging hard with a strong foundational character core for Virgil. I think this is an issue that sets up a great foundation that makes him like a very tangible character. I think that's something that she's been doing really well, even in stuff like Children of Adam, which isn't that good. But you know what? I think she does the best what she can with Children of Adam, and Static is definitely a character where there's seeming to be a lot more leeway, at least in terms of how to play a lot more of the kind of engaging and multidimensional character aspects and flaws, which I know has rubbed a lot of diehard fans of Static the wrong way. But you know what? It's only the first issue. Hopefully, this first season 1 miniseries does enough to like get people back into it. Overall, 1 thumb up, 1 thumb slightly askew. And let's move on to what I watched this week, which is Loki episode 2. I think it's called The Variant. It's not good. It's boring. It's like boring Doctor Who, to steal a phrase from Mr. Sunday movies. I don't know what to get out of it. I can't keep focused on it. Everything is so dull, so stretched out, so placid. There's nothing exciting or engaging about it. And like the story is fine. Like it's not like as insulting as WandaVision or as almost morally bankrupt as The Falcon and Winter Soldier, but it's nothing. It's replaced all of that with no actual tension, stakes, or dynamics here. It's just really lukewarm in every respect. There's only 4 episodes left. There's only a 6 episode miniseries. So we're like 30% done, 30% done, and it's been nothing. It's been a whole bunch of nothing. I don't even know what to say about it. Maybe next episode when we're halfway through, I'll do to say something or have something thought up. But honestly, it's not giving me anything. Overall, 2 thumbs down. Hopefully next week is better. Anyway, that's it for this week. I just want to say thank you so much out there for listening. I know these are getting a little more rambling, but I do implore you to go listen to the Comics Code Authority podcast. That's really where a lot of the discussion and the news that you crave is going. I don't want to really repeat too much things here between the two. When we take a break from the Comics Code Authority podcast, I'm going to be paying more attention to like the content on here. So don't worry about that. But as of now, that's where all like the effort is going. This is just going to be like my little space to just go a little bit of rants here. So thank you so much for listening. Hope you have a great one. I'm going to give a shout out to the cover artist for the show at DOTEMCE. Please send them out. They're amazing. And I always want to say, have a great one. Stay safe and see you next time.